Hello, trading has closed on July 15th, 2025. We always start with our disclaimer. We'll go over our calls and make our predictions. It's my trading plan for Wednesday. Wednesday is July 16th, 2025. Remember, it's a plan. I can change it. I can be wrong and trade at your own risk. Look for the pattern with the early low. Tomorrow has the early high. Well, we said a bunch of stuff. We said bulls needed to gap and promptly overtake the recent highs to keep the rally going. They did that. We also said bears were in a perfect position to drop pretty much right from the open. They did that too. I must confess it would have been a lot easier to interpret this if we hadn't hit a new high first. But the new high was promptly rejected. And since it was rejected, all it needs is confirmation by trading lower tomorrow to make this more signs of a top. We have a number of things. We're within the range of a Woodson turn date. We're within the range of a Carolan turn date. These all have some leeway. Right here we stopped at resistance, which was yesterday's close. Here was the day we hit the prior all-time high. Here's its low. It offered some support and we broke through it. Now that's a wall into the close. It could be a false move. And if it is a false move, we'll get over this high tomorrow and then that break doesn't count. But we don't know that yet. And right now, that's stopping at resistance and breaking through support. And also when the high comes in the first 5 minutes and the low comes in the last 5 minutes, almost always, not always, but almost always, you're going to trade lower the next day. And trading lower confirms this rejection of the new all-time high. In the afternoon, MEJT gave an ultimate buy signal, which happened, but it also said we trade lower. The rally was called false. The targets undercut this line, support held, and then broke. That's played out. We already are on a sell signal from the DeMark sequential count. The green numbers are the combo. Bar 13 can finish early. And without fudging, we got an early bar 13 combo sell today. Now, just because it can finish early doesn't mean it has to finish early. We could have one more high without changing anything, but when these come this close together within 3 days, they're in alignment. And when these work, and once again, these don't always work, when they work, there should be a pretty big drop over the next 3 days, and if it's really going to be a drop, it should go through this TDST line, which is at 6,025.17. That would be quite a drop if it happens. It certainly doesn't have to happen, but we have a perfect setup for that. And just because you have a setup doesn't mean it works. But if it works, you have the elements for a big drop. And to see if that works, we have to see what happens tomorrow. I've had a long time plan that this low around 6,200 was going to hold. We were going to rally 230 points. We put us well over 6,400. According to DeMark's rules, that's still what it says. I'm just not certain that one's going to work. The break of this trend line was very tenuous. It did meet the criteria, but only by a fraction of a point. And if it did fail, I would have to say I'm warning myself now that just might not work, because that's pretty negative stuff from today. If you connect this high with this prior high, we hit that right at the top today. And when you rally to that in a straight line, either you gap over that line or the line wins. So if we can't gap over this high, we should trade lower, and you wouldn't have to trade much lower to undercut that line. So that higher target's in danger of failing. I mean, we've got a rejection of the high. We were coming into the weakest 3-month period on the calendar. We're within the range of tops from Woodson and DeMark. We have sentiment indicators at an extreme. This is just not bullish stuff. Wednesday's pattern has the early high. Typically it's a bullish day with a high in the final hours. Failure is a straight line drop, and I can't rule out the straight line drop. The high of day was in the first 5 minutes and low of day in the last 5 minutes. It's a bearish pattern. It should lead to lower prices regardless of where we close. If we gap up smartly, it kills the pattern, and there is a wall into the close. That could be a false move. I can't rule that out either. The PPI comes out before the open tomorrow. I can't predict the response to major economic reports with sufficient accuracy. I mean, it looks pretty tough to gap over this high, but if we do gap over this high, all that negativity goes away, but just about anything less isn't going to cut the mustard. The market continues to give sell signals in terms of time, price, and sentiment. Despite that, it has not yet dropped, and there remains a higher target based on the TD line break. It's inevitable some of these signals will fail. Change the spelling there. Some of these signals are definitely going to fail. They aren't all going to work. The response to a new all-time high is not what one should see if we were to continue higher. Now, gapping and overtaking the high of day kills the negativity of today's action, which still needs confirmation. In any event, you have to trade lower, or this doesn't count. But the odds have increased that before too long, we're going to have a significant drop, even if we don't start it tomorrow. I mean, this is not what you want to see. A new all-time high and close in the red, and undercut the low of the day of the prior high. I mean, time's not up till tomorrow's open, but that's not good. Now we have the PPI report. And anything can happen with these reports. I mean, this gap up was because of the consumer price index, and if the producer price index also shows good news on inflation, we could just erase this whole thing. I mean, that we don't know. But I think it's a pretty tall order. And I think those higher targets are likely to fail. It wouldn't take much for us to break under that lower trend line we showed. And with all this other negative stuff going around, if we do get the straight line drop tomorrow, it's going to happen about 20% of the time. If that happens, if in capital letters, the DeMark sell signals could really come into play and take us significantly lower than that. So if you're a bull, I wouldn't give this too much leeway. We're on the verge of a big drop here, and all we need is a trigger, which hasn't happened yet and may not come tomorrow, but it could come tomorrow, and the sentiment indicators and all these other indicators being in alignment leads me to believe that higher target probably isn't going to print. Regardless of what happens tomorrow, I think we're going to go down, and only overtaking this high fast is going to change my mind. That's today's call.